essentially, I wanted to make a fairy tale, and the Grimm's brothers, I'd been reading Grimm's brothers for my eldest daughter a few years ago, and I remember thinking it would be interesting to make a movie where the love story was so pure that it was all about the idea of love, and then afterwards it would get really violent, because that's usually what happened in the Grimm's fairy tales. And when Drive came about, I had this idea that what if to do a love story in LA, but there was never the complication of love. It was more like the innocence of love and what we'd like love to be. And in order to have that, he would also need to protect it later on, so you could justify the extreme violence.
When you were making the film, or even back at the scripting stage, were you aware of writing him in the tradition of any other particular cinematic heroes? I mean, did any of that kind of feed into it?
Absolutely. I mean, he's certainly built on an archetype of a certain hero that you have a lot in America because of the cowboys. We also have it in the samurai movies and so forth, which is the enigmatic man who comes out of nowhere to protect innocence. And because of his past as a mystery, he becomes more dangerous and more, mysterious, and also more romantic and more, iconic, just because his behavior speaks for him. And it's something, when we look at characters, strength we admire, and vulnerability we identify with. Weakness we identify with as an audience, but strength we admire. And the Ryan Gosling Driver is a man of pure strength, so we admire his almost like ambiguity, and yet it becomes much more dangerous. And in Salas's book, which is brilliant, I highly recommend it, there's a huge backstory of the driver. But I limited all that because I felt it would be more interesting for a film version that he became more mysterious, and it was more a tradition of a great American hero that basically comes, to save the innocents out of the West with violence.
There are a few changes from the book to the film version as well. Of course, I mean, am I right in thinking the Carey Mulligan character is actually not Irene but Irina in the book? Now, was that a change that you made because you particularly wanted to cast Carey in the part, or did that come up for another reason? The book takes place a lot of in Echo Park, which is the American part of Los Angeles, and I'd found the location there, and I was shooting there, but I couldn't find the actress to play Irene, or Irina, she was probably pronounced. And I met with all the great talents in Los Angeles of Latino backgrounds, and there's so much of it, and I was very fortunate that everybody was able to do the movie, but I couldn't make a decision. I couldn't make up my mind, which was odd because it was all in front of me. And we were getting closer and closer to start date, and a lot of people were getting a bit nervous because I wouldn't make a decision. And out of nowhere, I got a call from Carey Mulligan's agent asking if I would meet with her. And I had not seen An Education. My mother had seen An Education, and my wife had seen An Education and said it was very good. So, of course, you take meetings when somebody says, would you please meet with my client? She very much wants to say hello to you. And I said, yeah, sure, she can come by the house if she wants to. And she did. And the minute she walked through the door, I knew exactly that it was going to be her. And I think it's because I fell in love with the innocence that she kind of came with, and it reminded me very much of my own wife. And now I could fully go on the journey of the driver to go to this extreme dark place in order to protect her. Speaking as a big fan of Christina Hendricks, did I detect a note of mischief in casting her? Because certainly when she came on screen, I don't know if anyone else in the audience felt the same. It's like, oh, fantastic, it's Christina Hendricks. And then 10 minutes later, she's dead. It's like, oh, what? I mean, was that an intentional thing, or did you also have her in mind for that?
I was originally casting porn stars for that role. See, Hollywood works like this. You have a list. The list consists of the same 5 people that the list last year had on, except if you were wearing a flop. They cross you out. And so for all the people that I was meeting for Irene that I didn't want right away, they sent in for Blanche. So it's a bit like recycling the same 5 people. And I was like, come on, give me a break. It's not going to work, So I said, well, why didn't you try to, let's go into the old X-rated world and see if there's something more interesting. They were like, well, how do we find them? And I said, you're in Hollywood. They're all around you. So that was like a huge thing that they actually had to go and cast these people. A lot of them actually were quite good. And then I got a call from her agent
asking if I would meet with her. And I've never seen Mad Men. I really didn't know anything about her. So I was like, yeah, sure, if she wants to come by. And she came by the house, which was one of the rules. They had to come by my house. And she came by, and she was just so awesome. Like, wow, like, who are you? And she was very nice and fun, and she was very creative, and we very much really designed the character there. So I gave her the part right away. And then I realized how big she was because I had not seen Mad Men. And I thought, well, okay, if she's going to die, I'm going to blow her head off. So it was like, I blew her head off. So
I mean, from the very moment the film starts and you get that electric pink typeface up on the cinema screen, it wears its sort of influences on its sleeve, does Drive, very, very boldly. I mean, did you deliberately make this as a genre film? Did you approach the material in that way? Or was it more an existential film, but with genre inflections?
Well, I make genre movies, but I make genre movies which are about existentialistic characters, because all the characters that I make movies about have some kind of deeper internal search, whether it's Bronson or Valhalla Rising or the Pusher trilogy, that always leads them to some kind of violent climax, which is odd because I'm not a violent man. I mean, I'm a very non-violent man. I mean, I'm a very feminine man. I don't like guy stuff. I don't play sports, and I don't really like men, but I love women, and I always set out to make films about women, and I always end up making them about violent men. And I don't know how I get to that. It just always ends up like that. It's certainly not the intention.
The way it's just dovetailed so beautifully at the end by going back to that song with the refrain, a real hero and a real human being. I mean, I'm assuming the lyrics of that are totally chosen to be pertinent to.
Well, that was, I mean, the way that the songs came about was that Matt Newman, who edits the movie or my movies, is a very part of my creative evolution, and he's more obsessive than I am about certain things. And he, when I said electronic music, he would basically scout the world of electronic possibilities, and he came with all these options, and then I chose the one that I liked. And Real Human Being, Real Hero was a great way to bookend the film and started with, because essentially that was what it was all about. Also, because the driver is half man, half machine. So by day, he's a human being, and by night, he's a hero. And for her, halfway through the movie, she's a human being in her life, and then she needs a hero. So music is very much a way for me to enhance my emotions, because essentially I'm a fetish filmmaker. I make films based on what I would like to see. And music helps me with that, to wanting to see certain things, not always understanding why I want to see it. I'll leave that to other people to analyze. But so I always try to define, if I make a movie, if it's a piece of music, what would it be? Because then I would listen to that music when I was developing it. And like Bronson, it was the Pet Shop Boys, so I would listen to the Pet Shop Boys 24 hours a day, forcing everybody else to listen to the Pet Shop Boys 24 hours a day. And with Valhalla Rising, it was like Einstürzen Neunbein, and that was like the sound. And then here, I always wanted electronic music, something that would counterbalance the masculinity of the car, this very American macho world of violence, men of doing violent as a noble act. But I wanted this very feminine sound, and I began to listen to a lot of Kraftwerk when I was in the development stages, and even when I was shooting it. And that kind of, when they made their first electronic music, it came out of these very almost antique instruments that had this kind of feminine pop sound to it. And then you kind of evolve into the Eurovision sound that, of course, ended up being the sound of the movie. And then when I had chosen the pop songs that are in the film, I then had Cliff Martinez emulate the sound of those songs into his score. And then in terms of sound, sound never stops. It just evolves through a movie. But my favorite sound of all is always silence, because it's the one key note that you can turn everything around constantly, because it's unpredictable. And silence is actually when we feel the most. It's also the most bare and sparse approach to anything, because that's when you really touch somebody deep, 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 because a voice, a dialogue is what you hear. It becomes logic, where sound goes straight to the heart, and there's silence is the strongest element.